good debt generally is something where you're buying a cash flowing asset, right? So think of it like a rental property. If you're a physician, you're able to buy into your medical group, the center that you're at. It's cash flow. So you're owning it, you get a fixed mortgage for it, which rates have come up a ton here in the last couple of years. But you got to have some kind of equation to make sure that you got more coming in than going out, obviously. And long term, it's fixed. And if you can, as interest rates do probably go down over time, you're able to go in and refinance some of that debt and you're able to make some more money from it passively. So it's not only just real estate where you're creating different, sources of income. I have my job. I've got a rental property. I have investments. They're all spitting off. They're making money while I'm sleeping. That's another thing that Warren Buffett had thrown out too. Mm-hmm. So definitely real estate is involved in it.
Welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins. Today, I'm joined by Drew Boyer, a certified financial planner with over 20 years of experience. He's bridging the worlds of hip hop and finance. How does that work? Drew is here to share how mindset, financial planning, and strategic investments can transform your financial future. So, hey, step up to the mic and let's begin. Drew, welcome to the show, man. How's it going today?
Great, Brad. How are you doing today? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on. It's going all right. So where are you at? Where are you at today?
I'm in a very frigid Columbus, Ohio currently. Hence the sweatshirt.
Yeah. Yes. So we're recording this here the 22nd of January, and there's a little bitty school there in Columbus called The Ohio State University, which just won the National College Football Championship. So how about that, huh?
Thank you. I had nothing to do with it, but I've probably supported them for years.
Yes. If you're anyway and what related to Columbus, I think it's ingrained in you, the Ohio State piece. So, but that's a whole different podcast talking about football. I want to talk about money and finance and real estate and all of this fun stuff. So, well, before we got there, I was wondering where you are, but you're in the Midwest, so you're kind of accustomed to this freezing weather temperature, right?
Yeah, but it's been pretty mild the last 2 years. I think the last time I remember a polar vortex was back in 2020, a great year to forget.
Yeah. So, and I was just interested because as we're recording this, a crazy snowstorm has just went through and dumped snow on places like Florida and Texas and New Orleans and just craziness. But anyway, I'm in the Carolinas. There is a covered ground out there with this crazy white stuff that I thought I moved away from. But it's out there. It's cold. We're staying warm. We're inside. We're talking about money. What better way to heat it up than to talk a little bit about your journey? So tell us a little bit about your journey as a financial planner and what inspired you to combine your passion for finance with hip hop. How does that work?
Yeah, I'll try to blend it all together. I was a drummer before I had to grow up and get a real job. And so go back to like sixth grade, somebody threw some drumsticks in my hand, a hyperactive young boy. And I sat down and it just made sense. So that was my start of my musical journey all the way through high school and then through college. Got out of college, time to grow up and get a real job. I'd done an internship at Merrill Lynch during the dot-com bubble. So I might be showing my age a little bit, but I was there every single day working underneath this strong woman who had the corner office. And we were communicating to her clients every week, like what is going on while the market's going down. And that's the thing about my business is no one really cares when it's going up. When it goes down, you can't give enough reasons or explanations why they should be more patient with it. So much like real estate, it's a long-term game. And so over the course of 20 plus years now, I've been growing my own book of business, working with a lot of first responders, and getting 20 years in. I've seen a thing or two, lived through the great financial crisis and COVID and the most recent bear market that was in 2022. And I found in my industry, no one's helping people that are just getting started out, like enough. And watching 2021 where you had the GameStop gambling going on, I sat here after 20 years and thought, how can I combine my first passion of music with finance and put them together. So something that's very, very public and that we all generally share together with something that is private, it's personal finance, right? And so I thought about every genre of music that I'm into, whether it's the blues or jazz or hip hop or rock or any, and one particular genre, hip hop, is littered with a bunch of not successful stories, but then there's a few people that have figured it out over time and built some really big mega empires. And so the idea is that it's easy come, easy go, but do the opposite of that. Learn from these lessons in the past from these people that you know, like MC Hammer or 50 Cent, Kanye even, and don't repeat those mistakes. So learn about it and then go do the things that Jay-Z might have been able to do, or Dre when he discovered beats and developed that. And then, how to compound your money long term. And so that's the idea of putting both things together in the book, is that we're learning from these big celebrity rappers that you've heard about. And this is the money behind the music and what was really going on when you heard In the Club by 50 Cent back in the day, and what financial decisions he made that were good or bad, and what can you learn from it to help yourself out long term, taking the ambition and like the attitude of hip hop to your everyday life to get ahead.
Very interesting. And that book that you raised up, what's the name of that book?
Hip Hop X Finance.
Hip Hop X Finance. Very cool.
Yep.
And that sounds very interesting. You're almost analyzing the real world problems that kind of happened when that money comes easy come, easy go. And you think about it, that's a mindset in and of itself. Because most of the time, like when you say money is easy come, there's probably a lot of us who would say, Drew, you're crazy. Money's not easy come. I got to work hard for this. I've got to work hard. I got to give my time. It requires my hands. But that mindset shift of when it is easy come, that's when you've created these processes, these systems, these relationships, leverage these things to separate your time from your money. And then that's where this compounding effect happens. And you think about it with hip hop in sports as well, too. And I've got a colleague who started working with higher level athletes. And, these are the guys that are making 40, 50 million a year. And it's like, okay, easy come, easy go. I've got so much capital to invest now. How in the world do I even do it? What do I do with all this stuff? So what a problem to have. Not a lot of people in this world have it. I will be the first to raise my hand and say, hey, I'm not quite there yet, but my mindset is there. So I'm there, easy come, easy go. I know it does take time. It's a long-term solution, right? To lay these things down in compounding and effects, but it's possible. So it starts with the mindset shift. So you're analyzing these things in the book. What in your experience then plays, I guess, the strongest of teammate in the sports world? So what's the biggest teammate when it comes to a well-rounded financial plan, when you're analyzing these things of the do's and don'ts of what happened? Is real estate part of that? And how do we incorporate it into strategies?
And so going back on the last one, it's the iceberg picture that people see. Like they only see the tip. And so you might think it's overnight success, but they don't see all the extra work that happened over there. So saying easy come, easy go, there's a lot of work that goes into that. So going to school, if you're a doctor, you're going for 12, 16 years, just, working in your profession. And then you get out and then people see, the paycheck you might have. So it might seem like it's easy come, easy go. The easy come takes a while and you got to earn before you learn, which I put in the book. Going to the second point, it depends on where you're at in your financial life cycle, but there's a great quote I put in here and it goes along with real estate as well. But it's by Warren Buffett, who's generally accepted as the GOAT, the greatest of all time. And he says, when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. And so if you're looking to try to get ahead and you can have these big astronomical, big student loans. Stop adding to it, right? The mind shift check. Don't spend more than you save. Don't spend to pretend. There's good debt and there's bad debt. I got stuck with, some student loans. I had ran up a bunch of credit card debt, which is in the book, just to get my business started. And I wish I could have gone back in history and changed things, but I was able to get out of it myself and more of it in there. But then some family loans as well. But good debt generally is something where you're buying a cash flowing asset, right? So think of it like a rental property. If you're a physician, you're able to buy into your medical group, the center that you're at. It's cash flow. So you're owning it. You get a fixed mortgage for it, which rates have come up a ton here in the last couple of years. But you got to have some kind of equation to make sure that you got more coming in than going out, obviously. And long term, it's fixed. And if you can, as interest rates do probably go down over time, you're able to go in and refinance some of that debt, and you're able to make some more money from it passively. So it's not only just real estate where you're creating different, sources of income. I have my job. I've got a rental property. I have investments. They're all spinning off. They're making money while I'm sleeping. That's another thing that Warren Buffett had thrown out too. Mm-hmm. So definitely real estate is involved in it.
So what does that feel like from you coming from the world as a financial planner, and that market, I believe, is called an efficient market, into the world of like real estate investing, it's an inefficient market. So the way that we can analyze them and basically put out to the public what that analysis may be, the difference in my mind of those two markets. How does that work for you as a financial planner? Because I know there's a lot of financial planners out there who say, "Oh, I can't do that. We can't do that, or can't do that," because it's not in the box of which you can direct your clients to, regarding real estate.
Diversification. We're sitting here, and I preach to my clients and anybody that would listen is don't be all in on one thing, right? So if you have an investment portfolio, it's in a bunch of different sectors between large cap, mid cap, small cap stocks, maybe a little bit of international, but that's just one piece. Having your own home at home, that's also an investment as well. If you pay it off, your net worth goes up. But as you rightly said, there's efficient and inefficient. And in my world, we're in a market where if you want your cash back, you can sell it on the open market. It's fairly efficient that way. There's a price that's offered. You can pull it back. Different though between, different types of accounts. Where in real estate, it is a very long-term play. If you're trying to flip something that's less than a year, you're taxed differently on that. If you're making a long-term investment, you're putting your capital in, you have to leave it sit there for a while to work for you. But that's, as long as you know the understanding the differences between them, I'm never telling clients not to do something like that. They should be diversifying everything that they've got.
Yeah. How did you end up with a rental?
Yeah. So my story is, in 2020, I'd gone back to school for my CFP certification. Probably about a decade after I should have gone back, but I'd signed up in 2019. I had no idea the world was going to shut down. So it was kind of like dumb luck that happened. And on the weekend when I wasn't studying for once, kicking the tires, I have two daughters that are 10 and 11. And I said, by the time they become teenagers, I might need to have like a fortress of solitude as a joke to get away with, once a month. And so, we were looking at cabins that were, about an hour outside of Columbus, and just going around and looking at some. And so on the third try, we looked at one. The bones of it were really great. And my wife, who's a stay-at-home mom, was able to start entertaining the idea of having like an Airbnb property. It's in a pretty good tourist spot in Ohio. And we're able to get that in May of 2020 and get it up and running by the fall. And I've kept it running since then. So that's how we got started.
Nice. Very cool. And that's an interesting kind of approach too. When you have the partner, your wife or your husband or whatever, as a real estate professional. Have you guys looked at that as well too?
Trying to hire somebody to do it full time.
No, as a real estate professional. So to get that classification when you file your taxes, it enables you to use the passive losses from the property to offset active income. So it's just
we haven't had to do that. We do work. That's a very important point, is to have a team and work with a very qualified CPA and have an attorney that we can go to and do that. And I've learned a pretty good amount of this, just being like a CFP. But we've stuck it to just the one. Life is too busy to be trying to go out and acquire other places. And we've been really happy with being able to use it as both a rental and going there for our own time every once in a while.
Yeah, that's cool. And that often comes up too. And I've been thinking about this a lot as well, of like, okay, how much is enough? Like what is your goal? What are you shooting for? And how does that relate to you and your family in regards to time? So, that idea when you mentioned not going after more, acquiring more, and just comes down to the point of where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Do you have any future endeavors in the real estate world?
Yeah, good question. I think for everybody, you spend a lot of time working to get somewhere, and then you get there, and then is it ever enough? And we kind of live in a culture where more and more and more. My wife is from Germany, and so there's a difference in how their minds are wired versus Americans, where they would say that they work so they can live. And I think a lot of times here in the U.S. we're living to work, and we need more and more and more. Hey, I'm a financial planner. I know what my number is that I would like to be comfortable and when I would like to retire by. And right now, I think that just having one rental property is fine. And we're able to use it for multi purposes. And I don't know that we're looking for more, but if the opportunity comes up, I think one thing I'd be looking at is getting a business for my building. I'm currently sitting in a rental office, and it's a great location down the street from where I live. So my commute, I was able to purchase by renting this, purchase some time, right? Time back in
Hmm.
my life, which is all going into that balance. And so I don't ever want to get spread too thin, where I don't have enough time to enjoy my family because my daughters are only young one time. And, I'm trying to not overwork myself and keep my health in line as well. So my last endeavor here was writing a book, and getting that out is something to give back. But we'll see if something pops up on the commercial side for real estate. I'm all ears on that, but the rates need to come down a little bit to justify the prices currently.
Yeah, definitely. And that rate will definitely drive what you can pay for a property. So as long as that relationship is known and it is proportionate, then it really doesn't matter where the rates are. It just lowers what you can offer on the property. So there's a
Hmm.
saying that's date marry the property and date the rate. So, but
There you
it
go.
all has to work out front for sure.
Yep.
Some of the clients that you do work with, you'd mentioned some of the medical professionals that you do work with. Do you have any stories to share about, specific maybe pitfalls or things to watch out for when it comes to real estate versus, other types of investing?
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to ever get over leveraged, right? Don't be house poor, as they say it, where you buy too much and then your cash flow is the king here. You got to always have the same amount coming in, and you got to plan for not only good times, but bad times. Or if you're investing in like a multi-unit property, whether it's commercial or residential, it's all about the vacancy rate and how many people are in there. So when we were going into doing like a rental, I looked at saying, well, what if it got rented out half the time? What's the rate that we need to charge to cover the utilities and the mortgage and these payments? And you really there's a slick equation that you can break out to do that. And that's why when I saw the one we found, I'm like, this is a no brainer. We offered like what they wanted right away, and there was one showing. That's it, and then we got it. But going into a larger one, make sure you know your cash flow. Make sure you know what the rates are and what the payments are before you get into it. Most people I've worked with they're working with a team. And so if they don't know an answer or trying to find it, they will reach out to somebody like me, but also parlay our information off of a CPA. And then any kind of legality questions, making sure that you have an attorney as well to bring in on. Um, I think it's also really important to note that when you're talking about teammates, if you're coming into a pooled investment, and so it's not just you or your spouse coming in and making the investment, one of the best things I've ever heard is before you get married, make sure you can get divorced. You need to know the rules of engagement. If somebody wants to retire out or cash out of that investment with you, how do you do that? What's your template for all these things ahead of time? Myself and my business, I have a buy sell with another advisor buddy of mine that came up together. And so it's very spelled out. Like, not only if you retire or what if you die, what if there's a disability where you can't do your job anymore? These are big, big things. And there's insurances that you can get to protect yourself. And so it's really good to take a 360 approach and build a team and really think through all these. And so I'm happy to sit here and say anybody that I've known personally through clients and whatnot that they've done okay on all their investments. All that being said, when rates came up, it's really slowed down a lot. So I think everybody's waiting for lower rates to help out.
Yeah, I was just looking at an article today talking about job reports and how that affects, the feds, whether they're cutting or holding. And interesting enough, the job reports that I was seeing had reported a lot. I think it was 200 or 300,000 jobs created in December, and 60% of those jobs were in healthcare and in government. So that job load and the way that it distorts kind of what the economy actually looks like, all of that comes into play on how the feds are taking a look at cutting or holding. Weirdly enough, Drew, I've noticed that even within the last couple of rate decreases, the secondary market is holding. So when we leverage products that are called DSCR loans, debt service coverage ratio loans, it's a secondary product. So it's not Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, but the way that they look at the rates is weird. It's not, they've actually gone up as these rates are coming down. The secondary market's still going up. So it's crazy. It is crazy. Do you know anything about that stuff?
Yes. I can tell you that one of the byproducts of a country that spends $1.23 for every dollar we make, you have a debt servicing load. And as we have more plans about, it seems both sides just want to spend more money. They just don't agree on what to spend it on. So as our debt goes up, even though the Federal Reserve might be cutting rates, people are demanding higher rates for our debt, right? So pay me more if you want me to buy your debt, because you don't seem to be wanting to take your fiscal responsibility for your fiscal status currently. And so that's been playing into that. I think another thing that's been going on is the Federal Reserve has been trying to reduce the rate. But if, like you said, you have massive job creation and the direction that we're at now with President Trump coming back in, that it's grow, 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 drill, baby, drill, and cutting deregulation. The Federal Reserve is supposed to cut rates when the economy's slowing down. If we're accelerating, I don't know how many more cuts that we're going to really get. And you can offset that with tariffs and whatnot. But the secondary market is saying, hold up, you guys have a debt problem. Get your financial house in order. And then I think that the rates can start to come back down a little bit that way. That's my take on it.
I would just love if there was a product that no matter what would just like sit at 6.5%. Like just give me DSCRs at 6.5%, just fix it. 30 years. I'll even pay points out front, like whatever it takes to stay that consistency, because on the acquisition side of things, it makes so much more sense. If we could have that 6.5 is kind of a nice pocket. Obviously, when it got down below that, that's pretty crazy. But 6.5, I mean, yeah.
And that's a great point. The long-term average, I've been doing this over 20 years. The long-term average for a loan for real estate is somewhere between 6 or 7. It's this, the last 15 years before they raised rates up, we got used to these insane 0% rates and 2 or 3% mortgages. And there's a generation of kids coming up. They're like, why am I having to pay so much more? That's absolutely the longest. That's right in the middle. It's not like the 80s where we had teenager rates that were, I've talked to clients where they saw their parents get a loan for 13 to 18%. That sounds crazy right now, but somehow we're still able to do it then.
Yeah. 13, 18%. Obviously it's all about, on the investment side, about the acquisition. If it's part of your equation, it's fine, but that seller has got to accept that price that you can pay. That maximum allowable offer that you can put out there has to work for them. So where does this lead us now? I mean, you've got this book that's kind of like giving back, like giving those stories back. What's so cool too, to relate hip hop with finance. Where does that lead you now? Where are you headed? It sounds like you're happy. Where are you headed?
Totally happy. I think my wife wants me to take more of a break and not be working on side projects all the time.
Yeah.
I'm just a natural busybody, but I would keep writing more. The idea of the book is to make, personal finance more accessible for most people. And it's not like a deep dive on how to do these things, but it's just to crack the door open, learn about, in the US, we seem to be a little bit celebrity obsessed. And so maybe I can use that desire to be celebrity obsessed to go read about these, learn from the mistakes of the past, crack the door open to people that are just getting started, right? Or anybody that's starting a little bit later and have an aha moment like, oh, I can do that too. And then relate it to yourself. For me, I'd like to go around and talk a little bit more about this, but I'm trying to get out there to help my clients' children or people that are inheriting money right now. That's another big, you can have a lot of money that falls in your lap from a rich uncle or something like this. And I've seen it go bye-bye in about 1 or 2 years, no different than lottery winners. So I'm hoping with the book, you read it, look at the graphs, it's all in color, read the stories, and put it into place for how you feel and what you think you can get out of life.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, that easy come, easy go is kind of like laid into the way that you not only you perceive money, but if it happens, inheriting it, like easy come, easy go, and the things that we do that condition us along the way when we are making money, typically will give us the ability to keep that money, right? But when it's inherited, it's a whole new thing. It's just like, boom, you just got a gold album, right? Like, then here's this deal, and here's this deal, and here's this deal with Pepsi. And it's like, okay, then all of this money, what are we going to do? How are we going to do that? Man, this has been an incredible conversation. For the listeners interested in connecting with you or learning more about your work or your book, where can they find you?
So if you want to learn about the book, go to hiphopxfinance.com. If you're looking to work with a financial planner that can make things very relatable to you, you can go over to my website personally. It's boyerfinancialgroup.com. Reach out, throw us a line. We work with clients all over the place and happy to help you or your family out as we go through this transition. Like you were saying with the jobs report, it's all healthcare professionals. There's a lot of people. The baby boomer generation is slowly dying off, and there's a lot of assets and opportunities that are switching hands. And so it's really important to get educated about this ahead of time before, maybe you do have some fast money that goes into your pocket. So plan.
Yep. And also on that too, a lot of our listeners are going to be working hard, creating that, that high income, becoming an attendant, and all of these other things. But once you get there, how do you keep it and how do you pass it along to your family as well too, done in a wise way? So great time to learn. And like you say, crack the book open, Hip Hop X Finance, and just kind of like start these ideas and start thinking for sure. But there's so much more we could talk about. I'm sure. It's been great. Thank you so much for your time today, Drew.
Thank you, Brett. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. Stay warm. Thank you to Drew for an incredible conversation. Here are 3 key takeaways I wrote down. Diversification is essential. Real estate can be a powerful part of your financial strategy. Avoid over leveraging. Always plan for the long term and ensure positive cash flow. Build a solid team. Your CPA, attorney, and financial planner are critical for success. Check out Drew's book, Hip Hop X Finance, at hiphopxfinance.com to learn more.